Good. Now we are in the series of discussion of autocoins, and initially we discussed about histamine, then we talked about serotonin, then we talked about prostaglandins. So today we are going to talk about leukotrienes, and you remember all these autocoins are mediators of inflammation and immune. So the basis of immune and inflammation should be very relevant in this one so that you can be able to understand this. So let us today look at leukotrienes. Leukotrienes are lipid derivatives, types of autocoins. They are named so because they were initially obtained from leukocytes, and they have a double bond conjugation. They have a double bond type of coagulation. So let us see types of leukotrienes. Leukotrienes are in 4 types. There is leukotrienes B4, leukotrienes G4. Leukotriene B4 is from is synthesized from leukotriene A4 by an enzyme called hydrolase enzyme. Its media of function is it is in the purpose of recruitment of neutrophils in acute inflammation or tissue damage, so that it can promote production of inflammatory cytokines like cytokines, interferon gamma, tumor necrotic factor, interleukins 1, interleukin 6, interleukin 8, by various immune cells, like T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte. So leukotrienes G4 is a metabolite of leukotriene E4, which is the cysteine motor oxidase to an alpha ketone acid in the body. So what are the functions of leukotrienes? Leukotrienes works primarily as a subfamily of G protein coupled receptors. And these G protein coupled receptors are on the cell. So they are receptors which are on the cells of inflammation. So they may also occur upon proximase proliferation activity and receptors, and they are involved in asthmatic and various allergic reactions to sustain inflammatory reactions. Several leukotrienes receptors antagonists. Very important agent in the inflammatory response, and have a chemotaxic leukotriene B4 as a chemotaxic effect, where it has a more of a chemotoxin, where it affects the migration of the neutrophils to the areas of acute inflammation, resulting to what? To bring the resulting to recruitment of cells and so forth at the point of inflammation. Now, what is the uses of leukotrienes? Are used in chronic asthma, are used in laryngeal rhinitis and chronic urticaria, and also are used in chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. They are also used in atopic dermatitis, migraine prophylaxis, and nasal polyps. So in chronic asthma, which you know that chronic asthma is hypersensitivity of the respiratory system to any stimuli, resulting to airway inflammation, which is characterized by infiltration of cells of inflammation and the production of excessive mucus plaque and narrowing of the airways, and should be bilaterally. So these stimuli can be either cold environment, can be either exercise, can be sometimes emotional like stress, can also be various allergens like air, also can be also foreign grains, and also some perfumes, smoke, cigarette smoking, all of them chemicals, they can lead to that as allergen to provoke these types of reactions. So there are 2 types of asthma. There is intrinsic asthma, which which is not very, it's very common episodes, and it does not manifest in the state as asthmatic's intrinsic asthmatic tends to go into more of status asthma, and it is always perennial. So let us look at how Leukotrienes antagonists behave like. One of the biggest Leukotrienes antagonists is steroid, and others is anti-inflammatory drugs. And, those are one of the most common types of what? Leukotrienes. So before you understand the antagonist of Leukotrienes, you should understand um, the pathways of leukotrienes. You remember very well, leukotrienes are produced by the cell wall, cell membrane, I mean, and the cell membrane contains something called phospholipins. And these phospholipins is broken down by an enzyme called phospholipase. And this phospholipase, when you give somebody steroids, it is the one which is blocked from converting membrane phospholipase into arachidonic acid. So that is the point where steroids works. But if it is not like that way, if there is no intervention of the steroid, let us see how the pathways goes. So the arachidonic acid, it is converted into leukotrienes by an enzyme called 5-lipogranase, 5-lipogranase. And here you can intervene by blocking it with a drug. At that point, that's where some drugs works. On the other side, arachidonic acid, there is an enzyme called cyclooxygenase. Also can convert arachidonic acid into prostaglandin H2. This one, at this point again, you can block this enzyme by non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin, brufen. Here we talk of COX-1, COX-2. There's a bigger pathway in the cyclooxygenase, which involves a bigger pathway, which is around AUTOCOIDS, and it is well discussed in non-steroidal anti-inflammatory because there's COX-1 and COX-2. But those one at this point, let us mean at that one at that point. So prostaglandin H2 has to like the thromboxane and also prostaglandin brain. So this one causes bronchoconstrictions and inflammation and causes pain. You know very well thromboxane works in terms of coagulation pathway. Then leukotrienes causes bronchoconstriction and inflammation and increases mucus plug. This is the reason why when these leukotrienes are produced by the body, chest, they cause bronchoconstriction and inflammation and increases mucus plug, resulting to asthma like in the body. But when you intervene by blocking leukotrienes by with drugs like montelukast, you can block it there, then this patient does not manifest any symptoms of asthma. On the other side, if you block cyclooxygenase pathway, you block the prostaglandins, you block the thromboxane, and then the patient does not manifest in bronchoconstriction and inflammation and pain. That is how these types of anti-inflammatory drugs works. You can see top there that the steroid blocks all of them at once, but you have to understand the consequences and the side effects of steroids. So you have to be very selective. The more the drug works down the system, the more it has less side effect. On the other side, remember there is another well-elaborated cyclooxygenase pathways, which should be studied somewhere else. So let us look at leukotrienes in asthma. Leukotrienes assist in the pathophysiology of asthma, causing or presenting the following symptoms. Since we have seen up there that the effect of leukotrienes in terms of they potentiate airflow obstruction because they increase mucus production and thickness of the mucus, and also bronchoconstrictions, and also provoke inflammation. So there is increase of mucus production, mucus accumulation, and bronchoconstriction, and inflammation of inflammatory cells in the airways, causing obstructions. So let us look at Leukotrienes receptors antagonist. The mechanism of action is that they attenuate the bronchoconstriction and inflammation, and the Leukotriene receptors antagonist, for example, the furocast, which is trained as acolyte, and also montelukast, which marketed as a singular, and also Leukotriene synthesis inhibitors like Zyfro or Zeroton. There are types of drugs which works as leukocyte receptors antagonist. Now, the biflocast is when you take it, you should avoid it at meal times, and it's taken 1 hour before meal or 2 hours after meal, because of absorption. The dose is child who is more than 11 years old, you give 20 milligrams twice per day, and the child who is 7 to 11 years old, you give 10 milligrams twice per day. So then you have montelukast, the dose is 10 milligrams in adults. And then child with 6 to 14 years, you give 5 milligrams, and the child with 2 to 5 years, you give 4 milligrams. Then you have Zyfro, which indicated more than 12 and above, and the dose is 500 milligrams orally for 4 times daily. And there are some 5% in various studies about hepatotoxicity. So Zyfro interacts with the drugs like warfarin, diaphragm, and propranolol. So in drug interaction, when the patient is taking those type of drug, you have to be very careful, and because of drug interaction. So let us look at the efficacy. Let us look at the efficacy. So, modestly effective for maintenance of management immune steroid are preferred over Leukotrienes agent. This is because immune steroids work specifically on drug. They don't have a systemic side effect. So they are used as adjunctive therapy in asthma, and benefit may be limited to patients with the 5L and Leukotriene C4 polymorphisms. And that is the end about the Leukotrienes. The next topic will be about interleukins. Will be about interleukins.